Howard Lutnick says the Trump administration may meet Canada and Mexico in the middle on tariffs as early as tomorrow being Wednesday. To be clear, up front, for those who maybe you're new to the show, you don't know that for the vast majority of my adult life, I was a free trade absolutist. I did not want tariffs imposed on us. I didn't want to impose tariffs on anybody else. I was all about, hey, keep it a free market and let the best man win. Okay, that was my stance. It was actually Donald Trump himself in 2017 and 2018 when I started understanding and learning what he was doing with tariffs at the time. And it's like, oh, okay, I can see how this can sort of make sense. And over time, I learned that when used properly, tariffs can be a tremendous tool, not just financially and economically, but also geopolitically, as we have learned already during the second Trump administration. Well, here now, of course, you've got a lot of people that are talking about tariffs, and there's been a lot of backlash, even from conservatives, definitely from the left, which is odd because they usually used to love tariffs. Bernie Tariff Sanders and Chuck Tariff Schumer are all of a sudden against them. That doesn't make any sense, but whatever. But you have a lot of conservative and populist economists that are also opposed to the quote-unquote trade war. I think I've seen a lot of bad takes on this throughout the day. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, I am so much smarter than them. But I will say that some of the people that are not opposed to what President Trump is doing with tariffs and who do look at the long game that's being implemented here by the administration, those are the guys that are starting to really make a lot more sense. Dan Bongino happens to be one of them. But let's get to this article over at the Post Millennial by Thomas Stevenson. The Trump administration's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, said in an interview with Fox News that President Trump may meet Canada and Mexico in the middle on tariffs and that an agreement could come as soon as tomorrow. The U.S. enacted a 25% tariffs on all goods imported from Canada and Mexico on Tuesday. In response, Canada launched their own reciprocal tariffs. Lutnick said, both the Mexicans and Canadians were on the phone with me all day, trying to show that they'll do better, that the president is listening because he's very, very fair and very reasonable. So I think he's going to work something out with them. Great, as some of us have been predicting for a very long time. It's not going to be a pause, none of that pause stuff, but I think he's going to figure it out. You do more, and I'll meet you in the middle some way. And we're probably going to be announcing that tomorrow. Lutnick was adamant that the flow of fentanyl should also be stopped in his interview with Larry Kudlow. When Kudlow asked Lutnick to clarify if tariffs would come down or not, Lutnick said that if Mexico and Canada are able to make progress in dropping the amount of fentanyl that Trump is considering, giving you relief. He said that the relief would only be coming to those countries that were under the U.S., Mexico, Canada, or USMCA trade agreement that Trump put together in his first term. Lutnick added that if countries have been living under the rules of the USMCA, they may see some relief from the tariffs, but that if a country is not living under the guidelines of the USMCA, then they will pay the tariffs. He then mentioned China and said that concerning China, the tensions between the U.S. and the country is not a trade war, but a drug war because of fentanyl coming into the U.S. Much of the drugs that are smuggled across the northern and southern borders of the U.S. begin with production in China. They still are giving maximum subsidies to producing the ingredients for opioids that are killing Americans. The Commerce Secretary also emphasized that Canada needs to stop cheating on the USMCA agreement with different types of taxes on goods, including with dairy and tech. Now, I have long said, since before Trump was in office, as I recall, I'm almost certain of it, I've been saying that President Trump is going to use tariffs for two reasons. And it's a combination of both. In other words, there's not, this tariff is for this reason, this tariff is for this reason. No, there are two very distinct reasons. And the ways that he uses tariffs, it's just stupid, crazy, brilliant. Okay? Well, I guess stupid and brilliant don't go together, but you get the idea. I get excited when I talk about what he's doing with them. Number one, obviously, there's the revenue aspect of it. We as a nation used to generate the vast majority of our revenue through tariffs. We can do that again, and I am very much in favor of the fair ideas that President Trump has been wanting to impose for a very long time regarding tariffs from a fair perspective. You tariff us 10%, we're going to tariff you 10%, vice versa. There's no reason why the U.S. should pay the lion's share of tariffs in any trade agreement. It should be equal. I'm not talking about equal, balanced trade, because that's a challenge when you are a consumer nation as we are. But if our goal, which it should be, is to switch over to being more of a producing nation and more of a self-sufficient producing nation, then tariffs are the best way to do it, because it encourages companies to either come to the United States and build here, creating American jobs, using American equipment, American roads, American travel, American gas, American everything, paying American taxes, or American companies can rise up and do more here stateside. So you've got that aspect of it. Then, of course, there is the geopolitical negotiations aspect, the art of the deal. And I believe that President Trump utilizes tariffs in that regard 100% of the time, to some extent. It's not like it's 100% of the reason is for geopolitical negotiations, but every tariff ties back to some geopolitical consideration. In other words, he wouldn't impose tariffs or set a tariffs rate without taking into consideration the geopolitical implications on top of the financial and economic implications. I was always a free trade absolutist. I learned that you can be flexible, and as a matter of fact, when wielded right, the tariffs can be an extremely powerful negotiating and financing tool, as they should be. I'm not big on willy-nilly tariffs, and I think people are confusing the fact that President Trump is imposing so many tariffs with the notion that he's doing it willy-nilly. They are all thought out. They are all very much thought out. People will ask, well, if they're thought out, why is he imposing such a high tariff on our friends in Canada and Mexico, but then a lower tariff on China? There's a lot of reasons behind that, but just as a basic course, I would guarantee, I would put at least a 97% chance that in the long term, neither Canada nor Mexico will be paying 25% tariffs, nor will we be paying 25% tariffs to them. No, it's going to, we're at a starting point. We're at a basically get your stuff together or you're in trouble. We're at that point in the negotiations. He gave them a month reprieve. He did. He said, hey, we're going to do this, but you guys are sending 10,000 troops. You guys are sending 10,000 troops to the border. It's a good first step. We'll go ahead and put it on hold for a month, but you got a month to figure it out, and they didn't figure it out. They didn't figure it out. They did not apply or enact appropriate policies to truly stop the flow of fentanyl and, in the case of the southern border, humans across the borders. Fentanyl and fentanyl components are still flowing, and that's got to stop. That absolutely positively has to stop. Now, as far as China and their lower tariffs, there are financial reasons why it would not make sense for us to go much higher than we already are with them. But that's not about geopolitical negotiations there. Not nearly as much. Everything is about geopolitical negotiations. But that is less about, hey, we're gonna use this we'll lower the tariffs if you do this or this or this. That's not the intention here. The intention here is, hey, we got tariffs. All right. So this is the tariff level. Now let's try to make exceptions for individual industries, companies, components, equipment, resources, whatever. The reason that the tariffs are starting off lower and will probably stay exactly where they are is because this is not a negotiation about a tariff level. These are negotiations about who to let in and who to not let in, who to give a reprieve to and who not to. This is a stall on the part of the Trump administration. They're wanting to see if they can get a deal done for rare earth minerals so that China's stranglehold over the all-important resource can be alleviated. If it can, their negotiating power drops. And now we start dealing with other things. And here's the thing. When it comes to the relationship between the United States and China, it truly is symbiotic in many ways. They might hate us, but they need us. We might have a whole lot of problems with the Chinese Communist Party and with China as a nation, but we still do currently need them. Both countries are trying to extricate themselves from those necessities to be able to deal with each other, but it's not done yet. I hope that it does get done. I would love for China to be China, for the U.S. to be U.S., and we barely meet any other time other than the Olympics and whatever. That's it. That'd be awesome. And I think that they wouldn't mind that either. People often say that China is into conquest. It's not really that. They're into protectionism through conquest. It's slightly different. That's a whole other discussion for another day. I'm not going to get into it. Bottom line is this. We are going to see a whole lot of movements across the board when it comes to tariffs. And it behooves us to sit back patiently, not react, not get all like, oh my gosh, trade war. What is this going to do to crypto? What's this going to do to treasuries? What's this going to do to inflation? What's this going to do to interest rates? It's all going to be, we got to redo this and fix that. I saw so many bad takes today. I was just like, guys, just wait. Give it a day or 2 or 10. Maybe it'll take a month. But it's not going to take much longer than that for us to see true movement and how these are operating for anyone. I don't care. Legacy media, independent media, corporate media, conservative media, independent media, pundits and talking heads of all types, for them to come out and say, oh my gosh, this is what's going to happen and this is what's going to happen. No, you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen unless you have the inside track on what the Trump administration is actually thinking, and very few people within the administration do. The president is keeping these particular cards close to the vest, and praise God for that. It's a smart move. There are certain times when leaks are okay. This isn't one of them. We're negotiating here, folks. Let the man cook. Let him do his work. Anybody who's watched my show throughout the Biden-Harris regime, you're probably very well aware that I've been bullish about physical precious metals throughout. And I remain bullish, to be clear, even though obviously we're in a completely different and far better era under President Trump. I still remain bullish about gold and silver, and you can see in the spikes in prices recently of gold and silver that I have good reason to be. But here's the thing. When it came to cryptocurrencies under the Biden-Harris regime, I was very skeptical, always have been, because I just didn't trust them. I did not trust that a government that prides itself on authoritarianism would be able to handle a decentralized currency such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the like. Well, now we are in the Trump era, and all of a sudden I'm bullish about crypto and the potential future there, especially as it pertains to one's retirement. Now, I think everybody and their dog is aware that they can back their retirement with physical precious metals such as gold and silver. I've been promoting that for a while. You can always go to jdrgold.com for that. But the addition, now that we are in 2025 and things seem to be very much on their way in the direction that we expected them to go economically under President Trump, all of a sudden, I am now bullish about protecting and potentially growing your retirement accounts through cryptocurrencies. These, like I said, it took me a while. I was skeptical because I thought, oh, they're gonna come out with a central bank digital currency. Well, Trump outlawed those. They're going to come out with de-dollarization and the BRICS. Well, Trump's taking care of that. All right, so what do we have left? Now we have an upside for cryptocurrencies. And I am very, very pleased to recommend going to jdrucker.com/crypto, jdrucker.com/crypto, and find out if a crypto-backed IRA is right for you.